a range of plants and animals in the countryside or nature reserves within the banner, within the region. Do you know what I mean? You ask certain questions for each cross-reference. I'll use another one. If you're going to look at ecological social, so you're going to look at an ecological system with a social perspective, the question would change and it might ask something like, how important are parks and countryside and say the river, because within the river banner, for the livelihood, recreation, and for socializing? Do you see how the question would change? I'll ask one more. If you're going to look at ecological perspective, a system with an economic perspective, you might look at how important you think green areas are to increase property prices. And you see how different systems can increase and can be measured in a theoretical sense. Yes. So the ecological system looks at the natural environment. Social system will look at societies and the communities. Yes. Individual is the individual human. You see, as individuals, we're different from a community. Each of us might have our own individual perspective, our own individual needs. But as a community, we have community needs. Those are still social. They're both social, but they're different. Yes. The economic system is obviously the economic production within that system. Yes. The built environment is basically anything, all components that are constructed. Yes. ISF formulation. Yes. We normalize indicators. We weigh indicators. This is the formula for ISF. We use a lot of summation research. Yes. An example here, if you look at the J and you look at the I is the indicator of research. Yes. Wang's research is very similar within that. Yes. So without going into the formula, if I was teaching, if I was lecturing, I would go through it. We would go through how we would do a summation. In summation, we the systems, the perspectives, and we would sum cross-reference. Scaled weight. So basically, scaled weight is when we have the data sets, we scale it. We use a ladder. Sub-indicators if they're used. Indicators when they're found. So we might get indicators, and I'll explain how we get some of that. The functions are the main things, because if you look at functions, those are the key functioning issues that would cross-reference in a cross-reference matrix. Yes. Perspectives is a part of the matrix. System is the part of the matrix. And your perspective and your systems come together to create what you would call a functioning domain. Yes. Subdomains are self-explanatory, and then your domain is your geographic area. Yes. Perspectives, functions, and indicators use what we call a dual Wang's approach. Yes. If you look at this example, and I won't put all the functions, I only put one or two down. Do you remember I said there was an ecological system and an environmental perspective? So within the region, if you looked at this slide, the first function we looked at was to maintain important.
Dear Professor Giuseppe Girola, I'm sorry, but you finished maybe 5 minutes, up to 5 minutes, please, and continue your presentation, okay?
So how much longer?
But 5 minutes.
Oh, that's fine.
Okay, thank you.
So if we were going to look at function to maintain important ecosystem processes, you might look at water quality. Within water quality, if that's an indicator, you might look at normalized pH balance or dissolved oxygen levels. Do you see how you can break that down? Yes. Community responses, we had a lot of functions. I'm almost finished. When you come up with an ISF you basically have a bunch of numbers, a historical record from 1990 to 2010. What you can see here, yes, is a breakdown. Yes, this is what I want. So basically, what we see here is a breakdown of the different systems we found. And you can see that you can look at economic, community, individual, ecological, and built. And you can imagine in China, what are the things that operate, that work? And what we found that you can also imagine would be something you would think of is that the built environment in China is doing very well. Their infrastructure is very good. Their economy is in this region was very low. Their community, individual, and ecological systems were very low in the region we looked at. Yes. If you look at perspectives, there's only 3 perspectives. Yes. Go very fast. Yes.
No, faster.
This was the URAT front banner. Yes. And in this region, we came up with. Keep going. This is what I want. So what we came up with, and this will be one of my final slides, is the notion of ISF research we can compare. If you look at the population curve, you can see that population went up and stabilized. Urat front banner is a rural area. It's an area where basically you would consider it cattle country, where all the meat in China is grown. Okay? So there's 1.5 billion people in China, so there's a huge area called Inner Mongolia and some parts of Gansu province, which have to feed all these people. So the population is not very big. But if you look at gross banner product, which would be the equivalent of gross domestic product, this is gross domestic product. And this is the measure in economics which you would look at and say, the economy is doing very well, right? Because it goes like this, right? Nope, go back. Go back.
Go back.
Go back. Yeah. And if you look at the ISF research, there's also another measurement called Ecological Footprint. If people aren't familiar with that, it looks at your impact on the environment. And if you look at the footprint and ISF research, you see how they kind of stabilize. They don't show a picture of a booming economy because they don't look at just economics. They look at social and environmental issues. Yes. My very last slide is ISF research has basically been done in Australia, in the state of Queensland, in the state of Western Australia, in Perth, in Southeast Asia. And those are basically, you can imagine, ISF research looks at 0 to 1. 1 being totally functional and 0 being totally dysfunctional. Urat front banner in China was way down here. And you can see the Australian systems were doing much better. But your idea of records research, yes, your idea of records research is to increase in terms of sustainable economics.
Thank you, Professor Cirella, for his presentation. So known problem, but so interesting approach for his for his resolving. And are there any questions to this presentation?
Yes,
No. Yes, there is question, and let's talk us.
First of all, thank you very much for your presentation, but I don't agree with your presentations on several of the last slides. Was in the 2010, the last results, comparison, and before also 2010. As you know, we have another position in China and in other countries that it's not the the same situation in our time, in this year. So why your results in 2010?
I'm not sure what the question was. Sorry.
Why the last result in 2010?
Oh, so why is it 2010?
Yes.
Oh, okay, because I told you, it's not the research, it was the example of the way the research, of what the research
Okay,
did.
the next question, why in China? Why in example in China?
Because I used to work in China. Yeah, so it's not what I was trying to do at the very beginning. Oh, you're asking why does the research end in 2010?
Yeah.
Okay, it ends in 2010 because it was done in 2014.
As you researcher, you must to understand that 10 years in the economic system is a big time.
Okay,
So I
so
don't understand why the last year it's.
okay, so my point was is that ISF research, I could have given you an example from 2000.
But it's not real.
I think we will discuss after this plenary session because question is interesting, but so long we are discussing about this.
Yeah, it's not
Maybe.
it's not whether it's up to date. It's ISF research is not whether it's up to date. It's only conceptual. You understand? Because it looks at records. It looks at records. So it's not the up to date. It's only that it's conceptual. So it's the idea of the humanity. That's what I was trying to present.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone wants to ask something? No, thank you, Professor Cirella. I would like to admit that we have in our university we have proactive young scientists who not are only trying to do something, but really make some attempts to keep up with the demands of time. And now I would like to invite Dr. Artur Voronet with his presentation, scientific analysis of state, I'm sorry, innovative development of economic system, European experience. And I would like to say that Artur Voronet participates very active in product activity of our university, has great experience in many innovative projects, and we expect for interesting presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for invitation to make presentation about some European experience in the sphere of startups, and I know that I have very limited time, but my presentation will be about some opportunities for startups, for young entrepreneurs, but it's not, you know that nowadays mostly startups, they should be innovative, because without innovations, you cannot find financing for developing your startup or your enterprise. The same problem was with Europe, and Europe want back, as they say, European innovation. And during my presentation, information is about Horizon 2020 program. Many of you hear a lot of information about it, but I will talk about innovative startups. And nowadays, they have European Innovative Council that manage all programs that work with these funds that you can get during calls about with startups. But before this period, mostly every startup has opportunity to participate in some calls, and one of these calls was about writing business plan for the enterprise, and you can get during this call 50,000 euros for developing your business plan. It's some bottom-up activities, but last call was provided by EU this September, and nowadays these opportunity are closed. And if we talk about some past and current future, you know, in the past, EU and US was leading in startups in making new innovative ideas. And if we talk about current, US is lead, but there are new players from Asia, from China. And the main question what European Commission wanted answered, it's about who will be the leaders in the future. And that's why they changing their program. And nowadays they tested these programs during Horizon 2020, but they want to use this practice in next framework program that will start from 2020. And these next, and you see that when you compare the data from USA funding for startups and EU funding startups, it's very big difference, and they want to increase this financing for innovative startups. Next one, and this is data about venture financing in USA and in Europe, and you can see that this financing is much more smaller than in USA. You can see that it's up 8 times. And that's why they provide new possibility. Next one. And they say that this ecosystem began to develop in Europe now. Next. And this is a story about European Innovation Council. They create new next one, new boards that with leading innovators that propose these new steps, how to increase this amount of funds to invest in startups. Next one. This is nowadays this European Innovation Council is one point where you can go to get this funding, and you see that they divided grants into 2 or 3 divisions or items. It's Pathfinder grants and accelerator funding, and for this time they have calls that calls phase 2 for startups, and now it's called as accelerated funding. But next one, but you can see how many money you can overall budget of these programs, and for 2019 and 2020 it's up 1 billion euros for startups. Next one, and this they call that they pilot it's during 2018, and now next one they make this new advisory board and introduction this pilot accelerator. They want accelerate these startups. Next one, next, and you see that under next framework program they also will have very big budget. It's up 10 billion euros. But they make new flexible rules for this accelerator. Next one, and I want to, this is the presentation.
So
but
quickly.
I want to say one point that nowadays you can go to these calls and take grants. They called it as grants for accelerating, and also you can take some money from investors. and it depends on your application. And more detail, we will send you a presentation after the conference. And if you will have question, you can ask me during the coffee break. Thank you for your attention. And if you have some question, please ask me. I don't say, but I also in our university, I'm represent national contact point of Horizon 2020 program on the secure, clean, and efficiency energy. Thank you.
Are there any questions to the speaker? Please. No? Thank you, Artur, for your presentation. Very interesting, motivating. Developing our traditions of strengthening collaboration with Ukrainian universities, I would like to invite to on the stage Professor Oleg Senyuk, who presents Khmelnytsky National University with his presentation, Prospects and Ways of Science Development in Ukrainian Higher Education Institutions in Modern Realities.
Dear participants and organizers of today's conference, it is a great joy to greet you all. I am Vice Rector of Khmelnytsky National University. I am Doctor of Technical Science Professor. I am very pleased that I have to speak at conferences of such a level, world level. Publication on conferences materials in Scopus and Web of Science and world level. Now is the period of strong competition between the Ukraine institution for the right to be funded by the state. This is why the results of scientific and technical activities should have practical value and scientific novelty. They should be placed in well-known international publication and part into production. Our universities have powerful research and production laboratories and research centers of various profiles. Basic and applied research is many priority areas of science and technology is performed in our universities. The state funding for research is annually decreasing. I believe that the priority area for the development of science in universities is an increase in the volume of service and developments under business agreements and international grants. The name of today's conference is Model Development and Strategic Management of Economic Systems. One definition of an economic system is a collection of people united by common economic interests. A university or scientific institution is a kind of economic system. Its common goal is to develop this university or scientific institution. This will help to achieve the economic interest of their employees. There are still enough scientists in Ukraine who have significant knowledge and skills, practical experience, and can critically think and evaluate any process. The main task of our country and our universities is to create the conditions for the transformation of potential into kinetic energy, which will become the driving force in the growth of production and economy in Ukraine and the well-being of each of us. The opportunity to publish the results of our research at conferences of the same level which allow us enter the world scientific space. I wish all the participants will see many interesting presentations to participate in constructive discussion and discover something new. Thank you very much for the attention.
Thank you, Professor Oleksinyuk, for his presentation. I would like to say and admit that undoubtedly a significant contribution to the scientific development of our university and to the problems raised at the conference was made by a scientist whom I would like to invite onto the stage. I would like to invite Professor, Doctor of Economics, Vice Prorector of Ivano-Frankivsk National Technical University of Oil and Gas, Liliana Horel.
Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, participants for the conference. First of all, please sorry for my English with a very strong Ukrainian accent. I am very happy to welcome you and that you have come here. Our conference is the seventh and a lot of guests have arrived. I want to show some participation statistics in this conference. We received 91 submissions, of which 75 was accepted. I am pleased to announce that 11 countries are taking part in the conference, and I am particularly pleased to welcome our guests today, Mrs. Eva Matuska and Mr. Giuseppe Cirella. We had papers from 269 authors. Have here arrived 95 participants from all regions of Ukraine, representing 50 universities. Among them, 35 doctors of sciences, professors. Today among us is the first vice rector of Khmelnytsky National University, Professor Voynarenko. Thank you very much. Vice Rector of Science, this university, Professor Senyuk. Thank you very much. And Head of Department, that university, Valentina Lukyanova, Khrushny Nila, Grigoruk Pavlo. I am very happy to welcome Head of the Department of the National University of Life and Environmental Science, Professor Reznik Nadia, and Professor Krasnorutsky Alexei. And I like present you here Kryvyi Rih Pedagogical University and Professor Solovyov. Come here, head of the Department of Ternopil National Technical University, Dmitro Motorny Tavria State Agri-Technological University, Kharkiv State University of Food and Trade, National University Kyiv-Mohyla Academy, Kryvyi Rih Economic Institute of Vadim Hetman Kyiv National Economic University, National University Lvivska Polytechnica, Dokuchayev Kharkiv National Agricultural University, and other friends with another university. Come here, I like to see here my friends from Ivano-Frankivsk National University of Oil and Gas, among them Director of Institute of Economic and Management, Professor Dzoba, and Head of Department, our university, Professor Kafka and Professor Berezhnitska. In our company, there are not only professors, but also some students. Now you will hear your presentation created together with Master of Finance, Marta Shkvareluk, on the topic Scientific Analysis of State Managing of Oil and Gas Sector of Ukraine. So let's get it started. I welcome Marta.
I would like only ask Marta to be in a certain time, of course.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Marta Shkvareluk. I am a student of the Ivano-Frankivsk National Technical University of Oil and Gas. And the theme of my report is scientific analysis of state managing of oil and gas sector of Ukraine. The purpose of my report is to study the role of the state and its participation in the confirmation of the efficient oil and gas sector of Ukraine, in the conditions of European integration, and the problems of ensuring its competitiveness in modern conditions. The normative and legal base of Ukraine form legal acts of Ukraine, the Cabinet of Ministers decrees, the energy strategy of Ukraine, and other international acts that are displayed on the screen. This slide displayed a step-by-step scheme of the business processes of oil and gas production and sales in Ukraine. There are 5 such stages: geological survey, well drilling and production, transportation, preparation and storage, and final consumers. On the stage of geological survey, the normative legal base is mostly formed with the help of the Code of Ukraine on bowels, the Cabinet of Ministers decree on approval of the classification of mineral resources and mineral resources of the state found of subsoil, and the law of Ukraine on the approval of the state program for the development of mineral and raw materials base of Ukraine for the period up to 2030. According to the above-mentioned law, it was planned to grow 127 billion cubic meters of gas and 32.5 million tons of oil and condensate during 2011-2020. Unfortunately, nowadays, plans are not fulfilled. Analyzing the data of this diagram showing the state of Ukraine's minerals deposit for 2015-2018, we can see the reduction in natural gas reserves by 17% and oil reserves by 15.4%. In our opinion, first of all, it is connected with the annexation of the Crimea, the deprivation of Ukrainian access to separate sections of the sea shelf, as well as physical destruction of energy infrastructure in Donetsk and Lugansk regions. On the stage of well drilling and production, apart from above-mentioned documents, we should mention the law of Ukraine on oil and gas, tax code of Ukraine, Cabinet of Ministers decree on the procedure of issuing special permits for bowls using. Moreover, gas in Ukraine is produced mainly by a joint stock company Укргазвидобування that increased production from 14.5 to 15.3 billion cubic meters of gas during 2015-2017. As to Ukernafta, this company, to the contrary, reduced gas production by 17% during 2016-2017. This was caused because the expiration in 2017 of 9 licenses given to Ukernafta. The company's attempt to prolong these special permits were blocked by the State Service of Geology and Subsoil of Ukraine. Ukernafta was forced to stop the production of oil and gas at 6 deposits. This also led to the decrease in oil production by 6% in 2017. The transportation of oil and gas on the territory of Ukraine is divided into inland transportation and transit through Ukraine. The main normative acts regulating the state of transportation are Gas Transmission System Code, the law of Ukraine on pipeline transport, and others. The volume of oil transit through Ukraine during 2015-2017 decreased by 9%. Inland transportation of oil through pipelines towards the Ukrainian refineries decreased by almost 13% during 2015-2016. But during the following 2 years, this indicator reached the level of 2.1 million tons per year. The total transit volume of natural gas in 2017 increased by another 14% to 93.5 billion cubic meters and became the highest indicator of volumes during the previous 6 years. And the volume of transportation of natural gas shows a decreasing trend for consumers of Ukraine by 10% during 2015 and 2017. In Ukraine, there are 4 underground gas storage facilities: Western Ukrainian, Kyiv, East and South. They are used for gas storage. As the gas storage facilities were not completely filled, the government of the country on June 1, 2017 gave the permission to private traders to store gas on the territory of Ukraine for the period of up to 1,095 days without paying taxes and customs fees if such gas is transported outside Ukraine. Within the next 4 months, joint stock company Transgaz signed 23 contracts with international and Ukrainian traders at 52.7 million cubic meters in total. The main normative legal acts on this stage are the Gas Storage Facilities Code, orders of the Ministry of Energy, and so on. In most cases, oil product is delivered directly from the refinery to the gas station or is stored in a reservoir park opened at the filling stations. As an example, the network of filling stations OKO is one of the largest oil filling networks in Ukraine that has 10 oil bases for storage and sale of oil products with a total volume of reservoir park of 72,125 cubic meters. The gas supply is mainly regulated by the law of Ukraine on the market of natural gas and the Cabinet of Ministers resolution about the regulation placing special responsibilities on the subjects of natural gas market. All the components of gas price as a good are set in this resolution, and they are mandatory for all the companies which are specified in it. In accordance with this resolution, in 2017, the price for gas for Ukrainian consumers consists of 4.849 hryvnias for a cubic meter. It's the price for gas from joint stock company Укргазвидобування for the national joint stock company Naftogaz. Then the margin of the national joint stock company Naftogaz and the margin of the suppliers added. Together with the cost of distribution and transportation and including VAT, the final price for gas in 2017 meant 6.957 hryvnias for cubic meters. In 2019, the price for gas increased by 1.591 hryvnias for a cubic meter due to the increase in the cost of gas from joint stock company Укргазвидобування for the national joint stock company Naftogaz. All other factors influencing the price for the remained unchanged during these years. Retail sale of oil products are carried out through a network of filling stations and are regulated by the Cabinet of Ministers decree about the approval of the rules of oil products retail sales. According to the State Statistics Service of Ukraine, during 2015-2018, the sale of gasoline decreased by 34% and the sale of diesel decreased by 25% during 4 years. The main reason is the high price of fuels because of the devaluation of the national currency. As we can see in the diagram, from 2017 to 2019, the average price for all brands of gasoline increased by 5 hryvnias and the price of diesel increased by 8 hryvnias. Let's consider the reason for it. As we can see, the price of gasoline and diesel for final consumer consists of 3 main components. As Ukraine is still dependent on oil imports, the largest part in the price for gasoline and diesel for Ukrainians is the purchase price of oil, which makes 47% of gasoline price and 52% of diesel price. Tax level. 2 taxes are included in the price of gasoline and diesel: VAT, which makes 20%, and excise tax. The part of the taxes in the price of gasoline at the filling stations makes 40%, and in the price of diesel set at 3%. 2 to 5% relate to logistic, transportation, expenses of filling stations on electricity, water, security, salary, and so on. And also 10% makes the earnings of oil traders. Thus, we would like to point out that, in our opinion, a new version of the Code of Ukraine on bowel should be drafted to improve legislation related to issuing special permits on the use of bowels. The rent rate for hydrocarbon production should be reviewed, as the constant increase in rent rates makes the industry unattractive for investment and reduced private companies' interest in mining. It is also necessary to reduce the amount of imported oil, as well as revise the tax code of Ukraine, in particular the amount of excise tax, as these 2 factors affect greatly the price of fuel in Ukraine. This will help to reduce the price for fuel and to increase the consuming of oil products. That's why, on the basis of the experience of European countries with advanced economies, the very important task for our country and for our government is today to revise and radically change our outdated legal and regulatory acts and to introduce new ones that will help our country to become an energy independent and a competitive state on the world energy market. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Marta, for your grand presentation. Are there any questions to the speaker?
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marta, for you. And now, with pleasure, I would like to invite into the stage Dr. Professor, Vice Rector of Khmelnytsky National University, Mikhailo Petrovich Vynarenko, with his congratulations to the organizers of this conference and participants.
Thank you. Dear colleagues, participants of the conference. I am glad to welcome you to the beautiful part of Ukraine in the Bukovel, Ivano-Frankivsk region. I wish you fruitful scientific discussion and good mood in the circle of college and friends. All scientific work is presented by Associated Professor Victoria Gurechkina. Please, Victoria.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would like to remind about our schedule and the time of your presentation, up to 15 minutes, please.
Okay. Congratulations to all with a great conference and
Maybe speaking
very
to microphone.
very glad I be here. At present, reporting the topic modeling the impact of innovation policy on the level of the development of economic security of country. Please. Yes, in a global transformation of world economies, the main tendency for development economic system remains the transmission to an innovative and intellectuality oriented type. In order to strengthen competitive position and world arena, it is advisable for developing countries for focus to policy of intellectualization social production, which is embedded in innovative model of country development. This is enable modernization and complete relating for production complex for propose and innovating economic development of country. This, okay. Effectiveness of country innovation policy is reflected in a graded of indicators presented in global rankings. The presented in main indexing, first Global Competitiveness Index, Development Index, IKT, and Doing Business. The basic of research is the hypothesis or the dependence of economic security of level of implementation of the country innovation policy, which is reflects in the state of information technology, information society, and business and competitiveness, and in general of to advise the existing contradiction of the impact of the level for economic security country. We use the use correlation regression model, which provides an opportunity to analyze impact for development information, technology, business, competitiveness on level of economic security. Correlation analysis solved two problems: determining of the realizationship and measurement for communication distance. Далі, будь ласка. Next
one.
Study in each connecting separated. Next slide, please. And but all indexes, the result obtained formula indicate then there is no link between the indexes identified, but we qualified characteristic for business development, competitives, information technology indicate that they not the case. Next slide, please. The slide show trend dependence of coefficient for determination and correlation with the level of economic security. According to the authors, the complex dependencies of the dynamics of index changes analysis for the qualified characteristics for each of the areas for development of innovation policy and economic security require future research for changes in the collection and monitoring for data link sub-indexes in each year. Nowadays, methodology for evolution economic security indexes and sub-indexes, business development and innovation technology, so take into account international experience. Mechanism for introduction and improves methodology should provide for changes for process for collection, monitoring, processing, and reporting statistics. To assess for level of economic security, it is advisable to use indicators, research functional and program targeting approach. This all identifying groups of economic security indicators. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, speaker, for his presentation. Is there any questions? Is there is question, speaker?
Determination, sorry, determination. For correlation work, база international reports, и doing business, и competitiveness index, IKT index, and economic security, PEPA in
What was the source of information using in this report? Yes, what's the source of information from where
statistic
chosen?
information in international reports and Ministry Economic Ukraine.
Statistics, yes.
Yes, statistics.
Thank you for speaker.
Thank you.
For her presentation. So we have listened to all the speakers, and our plenary session come to the end. And I would like to summarize our meeting. Yes, and I would like to summarize that the questions discussed at the conference don't have only scientific but also practical importance, and this was mentioned in the speaker's presentation. Moreover, the problems under consideration go beyond national borders and are relevant for foreign countries as well. How noted contemporary problems of strategic planning and modeling could be solved in different spheres of activity we suggest to discuss in sectoral meeting. And now I would like to invite all participants to share a photo before the central entrance into this hotel. Gather together and make this photo for our memory, for our for each of us to remember this event. I invite you. And then I would like to give some recommendations concerning where participants can attend to their panel meetings. As I was informed, participants involved into the 3 and 4 sections will stay in this hall. Participants who were involved in 1, 2, and 5 panel, please move into the next room, and then we will have your presentation. And now please gather together and go to shared photo.